Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to your DreamHoN Summer Championships 2012 coverage. I'm Zyori doing some stuff over here on ZyoriTV. Today we have Impunity versus BOCE going head-to-head, and the game has started. We can finally get into it after a little bit of a delay here, starting about 20 minutes late because of an internet issue. But regardless, our Legion team is Boost Kabor Esports, aka Catlomane's team, aka Clan K. However you know them, that is what they're flying under now, BOCE. Wow, probably going to forget that as this game continues, but that's okay. I know them as Catlomane's team in my mind. I'll do my best not to disregard the rest of the players like that, but Boost Kabor is just not something that sticks in that short-term memory. Anyhow, their opposition here in game number 1 of this best-of-3 series is going to be Impunity. That's right, one of the Southeast Asian teams, one of 3 actually participating in the event. We have seen Orange Esports participate pretty much every round so far. I think they've had coverage on one stream or another. I'm yet to see Impunity so far in this event. Of course, they have made it into the group stage. Today we do have match 1 of Group B coming up. Of course, that does mean that there are 4 matches happening simultaneously today. I believe there are 3 streamers, myself, Rawrich, and HonCast. I cannot confirm Rawrich, but of course HonCast is online providing some coverage as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this game here. The picks coming out ever so slowly, but regardless, the blind bands are going to be as such. Polywog Priest and Tundra for the Legion side, and Ophelia Meraxis coming out from Impunity. So fairly straightforward blind bands, 4 heroes that make a lot of sense to me. I'm really going to be curious to see how Impunity plays, because it's been very obvious that Orange Esports has their own play style, and it's significantly different from most of the other play styles we're seeing in the international client right now. Running that double jungler strategy has been working so well for them, and it's something that we really haven't seen much of at all, particularly Tempest and Ophelia together. The thing I love about it the most is it's not a strategy just based on surprise. It's not a one-trick pony. It's not something they did once then left behind, but it's something that they've been doing consistently and consistently well, and that certainly deserves recognition. Of course, Impunity, a team that gets slightly less notoriety on the international client. We tend to just grab on to the number 1 from the SEA region, but Impunity is, in my mind, top 3 in SEA, so they're a very, very high caliber team. Of course, the names here are a little bit funky in the international client. The 2 that I do know off the top of my head, I believe Ninja Boogie is the actual name, but Lady Ricardo is actually Lady Melissa, and Own, very, very clever name there indeed. That is Mr. Avi. And I've actually played some games. If you've ever watched me streaming while playing on the Garena client, Avi is one of the guys that I queue with somewhat frequently. So he's a very nice guy that I've spent some time getting to know a little bit over the past couple weeks. So it should be interesting. I really want to get a feel for their playstyle and see how they perform in this series. I also want to get a little bit of a bearing on how they compare to a team like BOCE. Catlomane has gone through a number of different teams. It's been, I think, a similar group of people, but they keep rotating names. And they've been playing together for quite some while, and they're actually a pretty skilled group. You know, they're at that mark that I talk about so often, where they're just below that upper echelon of players. They're not quite regarded as pro gamers, but they're really freaking good at this game. So it'll be interesting to see how players of that caliber on the international client compare to, top 3, top 5 caliber teams on the SEA Garena client. Should be quite interesting indeed. We are blessed not to have any graphics bugs here with our locks, so let's go ahead and take a look at who we are dealing with here in the lock pool. We do have Bubbles, Glacius, Pebbles, Monkey King, Master of Arms, and Tremble. A very interesting lock pool. Of course, the first 3 heroes make a lot of sense, and I'm very confident that they will be picked up, but who of those last 3 remaining will be the lucky winner to participate in this game? Is it going to be Monkey King, Tremble, or Master of Arms? And they can all fit kind of a variety of different roles depending on how these teams want to work them in. I'm kind of hoping to see a Monkey King. He's one of the most exciting heroes to watch, and the most fun anyhow, with all the acrobatics that he does. But a very interesting locking phase, and we'll see how the rest of these bands kind of round out. But obviously both teams here taking a lot of time, being very, very cautious, already breaking into a good bit of that extra time, and we're only about halfway through the draft. So maybe that is a sign of respect from the opposition. Also, just some interesting things still on the board. Of course, with the Pebbles on the board, always wary of picking up that Nymphora in tandem with Pebbles. Wouldn't be surprised to see Impunity throw a ban that way. It's always interesting to see Bubbles in that lock pool as well. He seems to be a hero that gets stuck into that category quite frequently. And I think it's just because he's so valuable as a long lane hero. If you throw Bubbles in that lock pool, ban the rest of the long lane heroes, or at least the popular ones, namely Wretched Hag, maybe Wild Soul in this case, perhaps if Impunity is one such team to execute that strategy, Bubbles becomes a very valuable pick, and this Legion team is going to have the luxury of being able to pick him up first if they so choose. So Tempest, Wretched Hag, Magmus, and Magebane going to be the bans coming out so far. And of course, we still do have a couple of bans left, ever so slowly as we continue on. Like I said, there are a couple of other streams running as well, covering the other matches today. And I can actually tab out very quickly here and tell you what the other matches are. It is Seishi facing off against Fit, of course, Impunity versus BOCE as we're seeing here, Shosh versus Dynasty, and DreamHoN versus Trademark Esports. And DreamHoN versus Trademark Esports is going to be a hell of a match as well. That is, DreamHoN is Sender's team, I believe. So, of course, with Trademark, that is sort of interesting. A little bit of a grudge match there, as it may be. So, it should be interesting indeed. The rest of the bans are going to finish up here, and we are going to move straight into the picking phase. Hopefully, the pace picks up just a little bit. As a solo caster here, I just don't have too much fluff, too much filler to pass the time by. The remaining bans, or the last bans, pardon me, will be Witchslayer, Behemoth. So, interesting banning pool, a lot of int bans. Seeing Witchslayer and Behemoth, of course Behemoth isn't int, but in my mind I almost think of him as an int hero. It's sort of interesting how that worked out. In the way of junglers, we see Tempest and Ophelia banned. Parasite is still on the table, though it seems Parasite's been phased out a little bit. I've still been saying this current metagame with bursty heroes like Parasite, but it seems we really don't see him all that frequently anymore. He just isn't that go-to pick, doesn't have that same driving force. Having him counter Ophelia a little bit, yeah, it's there. Glacius is almost a better counter and a much more well-rounded hero. Keeper of the Forest, though, surprisingly, is left open, and against these SEA teams, we've more often than not been seeing Keeper bans come out, so I'll be curious to see what Impunity does in the way of possibly some push potential. Polywog Priest is still, no, pardon me, he is banned. My mistake indeed. So it'll be interesting. Silhouette going to be the first pick for BOCE. Yeah, that is a mouthful. No matter whatever I use to shorten this Legion team name, it's still a mouthful. Boost Cabor. Cabor. I think that's how you say that. Cabor? Cabor? Cabor. Of course, Aluna, Forsaken Archer here are going to be the picks for the Hellborn side. So off to a good start. Aluna, a very sought-after support. Interesting that BOCE goes for the Silhouette pickup. Of course, Silhouette has been quite powerful. I think she's kind of like the flavor of the month last month, if that makes sense. It seemed once the Silhouette strategy going Nullstone into Portal Key was really popularized, they kind of... it just slowed down a little bit. Once Moonmander stopped playing Silhouette, once Silhouette became kind of a popularly banned hero, we haven't just seen as much Silhouette play. So interesting. They still see her as just equally as valuable as she used to be, I suppose, is a good way to say that. They're going to continue on with Nymphora Electrician here. So as I noted earlier on, with Nymphora on the board, always makes me a little bit cautious if there's a Pebbles in the locked pool, and it looks like this Legion team is going to be able to capitalize on that. I have very few doubts in my mind that they will first pick Pebbles here. What does that mean, though? They need to be prepared to work in one of these three heroes, and depending on how they continue with this draft here, I have a feeling they may opt for Master of Arms. It also kind of depends on what Impunity does here with their last pick before we get into the locks. If our Legion team opts for Pebbles first, our Hellborn side takes Glacius Bubbles, which might not surprise me. I have a feeling they'll pick up a tankier hero here. Pick up Bubbles for that Suicide lane, and maybe something to pair with that Aluna, and they could do a nice Glacius Forsaken Archer. I think that's going to be the case. But we'll see, only 10 seconds remaining. Both teams can use up all of that extra time to stretch it on as long as possible. It's going to be Hammerstorm, so certainly Hammerstorm Aluna or Forsaken Archer Hammerstorm could work, but yeah, it'll probably be Glacius Forsaken Archer. So I like that draft so far from Impunity. Like I said, if they don't take Bubbles Glacius, I'll be a bit surprised. That does pose the question of what's going to be the last pick, Monkey King, Master of Arms, or Tremble. And to answer that question, we're going to have to look at the lanes here. I don't know, probably going to be something to pair with Silhouette. So my guess is it's going to be Master of Arms that's going to come out and play that kind of support role. But we'll see. Calls them like I sees them, and we're running out of time here. And wow, not going to go for the Pebbles. So it looks like BOCE baiting a little bit with these picks. That does throw some things up in the air. Now, what's Impunity going to do? Are they going to be forced into something they don't want? They are going to take the Pebbles, and I can't imagine they're going to take something other than bubbles here. But we'll see. I was a little bit wrong. I did not think Glacius was going to be that pick coming out. And that makes me a little bit nervous for BOCE. Are they going to have what it takes to deal with this? Wow, a Tremble pickup. That is shocking. Monkey King, the last pick as well. I am totally shocked that neither of these teams picked up Bubble, so I'm eating my words a little bit. My apologies for the failed predictions, but wow. Very interesting indeed. So how are they going to lane this? I am not so sure. Probably going to be a Glacius Silhouette, Monkey King, Nymphora, and Electrician going to be suiciding here. This Hellborn side has sort of a funky lane setup as well, and I'm thinking they may almost... Are they going to try lane with double melee? I mean, that's certainly a possibility here. God, this is really strange. I'm not sure who they're going to send solo. They may just send Tremble solo, Forsaken Archer, Hammerstorm. Luna Pebbles could still set up for very aggressive lanes. I'm not sure how they're going to work in this Tremble. It looks to me like that'll be the case where he's going to be flying solo, but a very, very interesting draft on both sides. A Monkey King and a Tremble in the same game is quite titillating indeed. Now, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, it's very important to note the carry potential of these two teams because both of them are pretty heavy in agility. Monkey King and Silhouette here are going to be very well-rounded carry set. Monkey King's going to peak in that sort of mid-game phase, and Silhouette's going to start to peak in the mid-game and especially towards that late game. On the Hellboard side of things, though, Forsaken Archer going to be peaking kind of on par with that Silhouette, maybe just a pinch later, but also this Tremble will be there, kind of on par with Monkey King as well. So a lot of parallels in this game between the two teams, and I'm going to be intrigued to see how this one ends up. It looks like Tremble is indeed going to be the solo up in the top lane. They're going to send Pebbles solo mid for now, which does leave us with kind of a pseudo tri-lane down here in the bottom lane. Hammerstorm, Forsaken Archer, and a Luna. Now I'm going to be curious to see if Impunity continues with this tri-lane or if this is just kind of an early game. We're going to try and shut down their Suicide Hero and then rotate these lanes. That's something we observed in Zyori Breakdown number 22 this morning when we looked at the Orange Esports versus QSQ Game 3, and that's exactly how they started off. They started with a tri-lane, denied this bottom lane for a couple of levels, then just rotated up to the top to make that other lane that much easier. So they very well may grief Catlow main a little bit in the start of this game. I doubt they're going to commit to a tri-lane against just a solo Electrician. Forsaken Archer and a Luna should be able to handle that fairly easily, though it may end up being Hammerstorm and Forsaken Archer. Kind of depends on how they want to handle it. The Legion side playing the lane shuffle a little bit. We see Glacius, Monkey King in the mid for now, and Silhouette and Nymphora in the top. So again, BOCE going to prove me wrong with my predictions, and I'm not sure if that's a good sign or a bad sign. If it's Zyori failing and BYOC with these tricky tactics up their sleeves, or if they're just, well, trying out some things that are kind of yet to be proven. We'll see. Very curious indeed. I know one of the things with Monkey King, one potential build that I've seen people do is to pick up a very early mana ring because he's one of those heroes that's very mana intensive, and it allows him to farm a little bit easier if he has that larger mana pool and also just that mana sustain. So with an Nymphora, I thought that would have been money in the bank, just being able to harass back this Pebbles. So it is a little bit intriguing. It looks like the Hellborn side is going to be forced to do a little bit of work here in the way of supporting that Pebbles. I don't think he's going to be able to stay in that solo lane, and yeah, Hammerstorm going to head back to the bottom. As here we see a Luna moving to the mid to try and support Pebbles, and I think that's definitely the right play. Unfortunately, they didn't do too much griefing onto Electrician here. If we look at the creep score, he's sitting 1-0. Well, Forsaken Archer is 1-0 also, just now getting our first set of creep kills. So, kind of a break even. A noble effort, unfortunately not going to work out the way they would have hoped, I'm quite sure. Up in the top lane, it is going to be the solo Tremble in the short lane up against the Nymphora Silhouette, and I'm just really curious about why Nymphora Silhouette. Glacius has that sure stun with his Ice Imprisonment, and to me that just leads to an easy tree grapple stun from Silhouette. With Nymphora, landing that Zeal is a little bit more difficult, so I don't quite see the synergy in that duo as much as I do in the Glacius Silhouette lane as far as damage output as well. Glacius is a little bit more of an effective damage dealer, though they are doing plenty of damage to Tremble as it is. Looks like AV here may have stepped up just a little bit too far. But he's going to be able to eat a tree and enjoy the increased regeneration of sitting in a Terror Mound. I believe they still increase regeneration. Yes, indeed. So, yeah. interesting stuff indeed. I mean, Monkey King Glacius is just fine, but again, I don't see that same synergy as I do with the Monkey King Nymphora lane, just being able to feed him endless amounts of mana. He's going to get harassed back a little bit here, though, and needs to be just a little bit careful. I mean, Pebbles of Luna is a very, very aggressive lane. Monkey King, although he can put out a lot of damage, he is pretty much a glass cannon, especially starting with just a hatchet. If he gets caught by an Luna Stun and then a Pebbles combo to follow up, he could be in big trouble very quickly. I think level 3 here, Pebbles is going to have enough mana to drop a combo if he's at full HP. So, of course, being cautious is always something to keep in mind. Where's that rune going to spawn? It looks like, did a Luna pick it up? I missed the 2-minute rune. Pardon me for that. As I mentioned earlier today, still not really feeling that well. I woke up with a very, very upset stomach, so I'm taking it a little bit slow today. I've been sucking down peppermint tea like it's my job. I haven't really eaten much, so you'll have to excuse maybe the little bit less enthusiastic Zyori that you may be used to. Just one of those days, feeling a little dehydrated, just a little bit drained, a little under the weather, however you want to coin it. Very unfortunate indeed. So things continuing along here, though. About 3 minutes in, still no bloodlust. Both sides playing reasonably defensively, which kind of makes sense given the amount of agility in this game. See Monkey King and Forsaken Archer leading the way in farm for their respective teams, both doing reasonably well. But no one getting out of control. Of course, no one at that 300 GPM mark quite yet. From the top, Tremble taking a good bit of harassment. Silhouette showing why she has that lane presence that, or showing off that lane presence that she's become so known for here in the competitive scene. And for it just continuing to harass, it just still to me just feels like a little bit of wasted potential. Pairing up the supports this way. And here, this is really how you counter Tremble, though. A lot of people have complained about Tremble being broken in the past, and of course he has been nerfed quite a bit over the ages, but the real counter to him is trying to pair him up against a double-ranged lane. That is so difficult for him to deal with. With one ranged hero, it's difficult to harass down the mounds and actually finish them off because they do regenerate if you don't keep attacking them. With two ranged, though, it's just an uphill battle for Tremble. He's never going to be able to sustain them in lane, which is very unfortunate. It limits a lot of what that hero can do. See Electrician on the run here. Cat Lomain kind of just abandoning this bottom lane, saying, all right, Lady Melissa, I can't take you one-on-one, so I'm just going to let you continue free farming your way to victory. Forsaken Archer now leading the way, and Farm Glacius going to go down here. It looks like down he goes. Ninja Boogie going to be the one to pick up that Bloodlust Gold onto Pebbles, and it looks like more action could be following here. Luna going to be in a little bit of trouble. Electrician does have grip, even though he's only level 2, so almost setting something up there, but they are going to be able to survive just fine. Tremble apparently taking some damage in the top lane, though, did survive just fine. So very nicely done by Pebbles there to pick up that kill onto Glacius, and that's exactly what I was talking about, is the problem with this mid lane. Although there's aggression on both sides, the Luna Pebbles duo at least has the benefit of having a tanky hero in the mix. We see Pebbles surviving all of that burst. If they had dropped it on a Luna, she would have been dead. So exactly the point that I was making coming true as they engage on the Pebbles right there. That tanky presence just gives this mid lane such an advantage to Impunity. Really going to be difficult for this Glacius Monkey King to do anything. We see Monkey King after one rotation here, he's just out of mana. That's why pairing him with Nymphora is so important, especially when you have a Glacius that's going the aggressive build. We see level 4 going 2-2 and 0. That does usually indicate that Monkey King is going to have mana problems. Looks like Ninja Boogie crashed here. No problemo. Gonna sit in a pause. See someone in chat, Monkey King very well may go for the Souls Bulwark route. Certainly a viable option, something that we've seen from time to time. Tends to be kind of a pub stomping strategy, though something that does work in competitive play. I'll be curious to see if he actually does opt for that item build. It does make him a little bit more of a mid-game hero. That is not a late-game potential item. I mean, it does help in the late game. It's not an item that falls off, but you'll see if Monkey King gets that, at the level 11 mark, he's going to be hitting really hard. Once the opposing team gets in a defensive Souls they can turn on against it, it just turns Monkey King into a really squishy little duck. That's really all it is. So it's not quite glass cannon-y enough to give him that huge damage boost to keep carrying him into the late game, and it also doesn't give him enough of a defense to really make him a tanky presence to give him that increased survivability that he needs. So it's certainly a mid-game oriented strategy item, and especially in a situation like this, it could work very nicely given that Silhouette is the one that's going to carry in that late game. Monkey King is needed more so for the mid-game than the late, so perhaps Souls Bulwark first will prove to be the right choice, and certainly once Electrician starts stacking some of those armor items, he could become quite the BP presence as well. One thing that makes me really nervous from the BOCE perspective, though, is the choice to leave Forsaken Archer free farming down here in the bottom lane. If we take a look at the creep kill difference, actually Lady Melissa not doing that well in the grand scheme of things. I mean, certainly going neck and neck with Monkey King is good, but that's really not a free farm status. I mean, he's still sub 300 GPM, 270 GPA. It's not bad, but it's not great. It kind of depends on what BOCE does in the next couple of minutes. Are they just going to roam around, try and pick up an advantage in these other lanes, then come back down and shut down Forsaken Archer? Or are they just totally going to sacrifice that lane and focus on making sure their other lanes get really, really farmed? Really not a big fan of that strategy to just sacrifice a lane, especially against a hero like Forsaken Archer who has those farming mechanisms to get out of control, and also just that late game potential that is ridiculous. We've all seen those super far and Forsaken Archers. I believe Moon Meander has achieved such a Forsaken Archer from time to time, where he is just so ridiculous with that split shot. It is insane. Forsaken Archer really is a super hard carry. Cat Lo Mein getting a little smart there, but we are going to resume nonetheless. I love to see the witty banner between both teams, though. It's nice to see a little bit of giggles going on both sides. Some good sportsmanship, what have you. Very happy to see. Going to see Electrician come in the mid lane here. Going to initiate onto Miss Air, and that's going to be an easy kill for the Legion side. Hans Panda going to be the one to pick up the kill on Glacius, actually. So curious if that was intentional or not, but Glacius is going to be the one to pick up the kill nonetheless. Very easy gank, and this is kind of what I was talking about. Is that all it's going to be? And we'll see Electrician return to the bottom lane momentarily, possibly with some backup. Or is that just the beginning of Electrician's irritation here as his presence, as a roamer continues? He's going to move down to the bottom lane here, and he will fish his wish by picking up a rune. Going to be able to pick up an invisibility, and a little bit indecisive where he wants to go. It looks like he is going to head to the mid lane and may be able to set something up on the Hammerstorm. Keep in mind, all the while, Forsaken Archer just free farming away, now sitting level 6. We're getting close to that point, though, where Electrician is only level 3, and he's just not going to be able to solo lane against Forsaken Archer. If he gets caught in a volley and a Piercing Arrow's ultimate, it's just going to be a little bit too much for him to handle. See up here in the top lane, Silhouette going to get caught. Very nicely done by this Hellborn side. Nice collapse onto her. Nowhere to run, and she is going to fall. It looks like it is going to be Tremble to pick up that kill, so that's going to be a nice little pick-me-up as well. As we say so often in casts of this caliber in the suicide lanes, it's all about just not conceding deaths. That's really a victory. Now that Tremble's sitting 1-0, that is a victory in that top lane. It's been a 2v1 this whole time, and now Silhouette is sitting 0-1. Down in this bottom lane, that's exactly what I was talking about, feeling good about calling that bad boy. Nothing Cat Lo Mein can do at that low level. Needs help in this bottom lane, or they need to just opt to sacrifice it. More action here in the mid lane. We do see a 1-for-1 exchange. Monkey King going to be able to pick up a kill, as does Hammerstorm. It looks like Monkey King will be able to survive. Unfortunately for these two, they are completely dry. I think a couple of Ring of Sorceries may be a good idea here for the Hellborn side. I think they could probably get away with 2 this game because they have a very mana-intensive team, to say the least. Maybe not mana intensive is the right word, but mana inefficient is maybe the right word. Down in the bottom lane here, though, Cat Lo Mein just struggling so much against this Forsaken Archer. If you're going to sacrifice this lane, you really need to commit to sacrificing it. Say, alright, this lane is over, I'm going to go somewhere else, or have somebody come down here with you to try and turn it around on this Forsaken Archer. Hammerstorm coming in, that really should have been a kill for Impunity there. A little bit of sloppy play, but nicely done by Cat Lo Mein to get into the Fog of War just in the nick of time. Very unfortunate for Impunity, but still very evident that Electrician is vastly underfarmed this game, having so much difficulty in that solo lane. Let's take a look at the GPM chart to see where everyone stands. Forsaken Archer, as we would expect, in a great position. Monkey King going to go for this rune. He's going to get stunned right before he can pick it up, but he is going to grab it. It is going to fill up his bottle as well to be able to dash away, and that's a nice pick for Monkey King right there. Although playing with fire, if Pebbles could have connected with Stalagmites, that would have been a kill. So very, very ballsy move by Mr. Monkey King right there. I do like his choice to go ahead and pick up that the Mystic Vestments very early, given that magic-intensive lane. And for going to miss the Zeal here, that they still have some opportunity to finish off this Tremble. Monkey King with a double damage is a scary thing, but unfortunately they're not going to have the stun stagger to set that up. I'm just going to say, if that was Glacius instead of Nymphora right there, that probably would have been a kill. You don't have to worry about that skill shot with Glacius. Part of the reason why Nymphora just doesn't have that same versatility that Glacius does. Monkey King now going to port, still has that double damage rune activated. Looks like he wants to make the most of it. It is going to wear off here in about 12 seconds. I can't see it over the grass, about 10 seconds or so. Unfortunately, just not going to be able to capitalize. Very unfortunate for Monkey King. He worked hard for that double damage rune. A lot of opportunity right there, just not capitalize on. Very unfortunate indeed. Going to take a look at the inventories. Of course, Impunity has a nice lead set up for themselves. About 9 minutes in here. 2k gold, 2.8k experience. And just starting to shine in the inventories a little bit. We see a small boots discrepancy, but really nothing too earth-shattering. We see Tremble working towards his Helm of the Black Legion, going for that Beast Heart first. Certainly a smart choice up here in the Suicide lane. Though I am a little bit surprised to see him without a Stout Shield. That is very, very surprising to me, seeing that he's up against a double-ranged lane. I mean, you just know he's going to get harassed at some point, so it seems that the shield would be a very cost-effective item here in this situation. Down to the bottom lane, Forsaken Archer going to be able to finish off the tower, so there you go, sacking that lane. Truly sacrificed at this point. One problem for Forsaken Archer, though, of all the lanes to sack, that is the worst one for her to kill. Now she's going to have much room to farm. I mean, for now, she's going to be able to pressure this tower a little bit, but she is really up far right now, very susceptible to ganks, of course, very limited on vision. So that's one of the problems when pushing your opponent's close lane right away. It does limit her farming space at this point. And you can understand why she's backing up. You don't want to be pushing a tier 2 by yourself at the 10-minute mark when you have very limited vision of where the opposition is. So now Forsaken Archer is going to have to find elsewhere to farm, and that is going to slow down that GPM just a little bit here. Going to see Monkey King going, though. Looks like he's going to engage onto Hammerstorm. He's found the real one, and Hammerstorm's going to be in big trouble here. Going to be able to get that hammer throw off, and he may actually be able to survive this. The Galvanize is going to be just enough, of course, sitting on red boots, making all the difference in the world. Tremble going to get engaged on now, and I think he's going to fall. Too much stun coming his way, and nothing he can do, completely stun locked the entire time. Pebble's going to come in here. He's going to drop the combo onto Catlow main. Power throw going to follow up. Not going to be enough damage, though. He will survive to tell the tale, though it is going to be a close call. He's going to have to head for the well very quickly here. Sort of unfortunate for the Hellborn side. A couple of opportunities, but didn't connect nearly as much as they would have liked, although that did open up a huge window for Forsaken Archer. Look at all of these skeletons doing so much damage to this tower, and Forsaken Archer going to be able to pressure this tier 2. This is a huge mistake from BOCE. You cannot let a hard carry do this much damage to a tier 2 tower. They're going to port in way too late. Forsaken Archer is going to be able to survive, and these are going to be 2 wasted ports for Nymphora and Silhouette. Really unfortunate for the Legion side. Not the best decision making. Yeah, they did pick up a kill in the top lane, but that was a cost-effective exchange for the Hellborn side if I ever saw one. And not only did Forsaken Archer get 2 tower kills down in that bottom lane, but just taking out a second-tier tower 11 minutes in really limits those access points. More initiation in the mid lane as we see Lady Melissa picking up a kill onto a Mr. Monkey King right there. Beautifully done by Impunity. They've picked up this momentum, and they're not going to slow it down. They're going to take out this tier 1 tower in the mid lane here after picking up that kill, and there's going to be no defense. Glacius going to harass a little bit, but what can he do? In all reality, really can't do a hell of a lot. So this is really starting to look rough for BOCE to start things off. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to have to cheat to see what their real name is. And it is Boost Cabor. I could remember the Cabor, but I couldn't remember the Boost. Boost Cabor. Looking very, very rough for them here in game number 1. Of course, it is a best of 3 series, as is everything here in the DreamHoN event. So if they ultimately don't make a comeback in this game, they will have another chance to at least bring it into a game 3 and then possibly win this series. They're still not out of this game, I suppose I could say, but it's definitely looking a little bit rough for them. And they're going to need some big plays to turn this around. Pardon me, Silhouette's lack of farm right now is what's really scaring me. Looking at this GPM chart, this is scary. Generally speaking, when you sacrifice the lane against a hero like Forsaken Archer, that means you're going to have essentially a tri-lane somewhere else on the map. And you should be able to get one of your carries equally farmed, if not more. We're going to see some beautiful initiation from Impunity as Hammerstorm hops out of the trees. They do pick up 1 kill. Unfortunately, Monkey Kingdom 4 do make it out alive. A beautiful set of initiation right there from the Hellborn side, but they don't capitalize as much as they would have liked. They do manage to kill Silhouette, though, so that is certainly good news. Of all the heroes to take out, she is kind of the prime target at the moment. But the point that I was making is, yeah, you should have your Silhouette or Monkey King kind of on par with this Forsaken Archer at this point if you're going to opt to sacrifice that lane. That's one of the trade-offs that you should be able to make. Sacrificing the lane, then seeing a GPM chart like this, when it's only 3 to 6 hero kills, is not a good sign. This is not a matter of we've been feeding them with hero deaths. 3 to 6, 13 minutes in is really no big deal. That's an easy comeback. It's the lack of lane control that this Legion team has. It's the fact that at this point they've pretty much lost all of their lanes. They've lost 4 towers in 3 minutes without pushing a single tower of their own. And this pain train is continuing to pressure a tier 2, and there's absolutely nothing that they can do about it. Electrician's in the mid lane trying to figure out the best course of action. Should he stay or should he go? Should he stay in that mid lane and try and pressure to pick up a tier 1 tower kill of his own? Maybe balance things out a little bit, start his team with a little bit of momentum thanks to a nice cash infusion? Or should he port back to be the noble defender alongside his team? Looks like he's going to opt to stay in the mid lane and do, well, really nothing in the way of pushing that tower, but he's going to opt to stay nonetheless. We're going to see that tier 2 tower in the top lane fall, and now we see the aggression commencing. The red power throw going to come out, and down goes Nymphora. Beautifully done by Miss Air right there to pick off a very, very easy kill. So not only getting the tier 2 tower, but now winning that team fight in the way of hero kill exchange. Now sitting 7-3, 14 minutes in. Beautifully done by Team Impunity. Pardon me. So, yeah, and I see somebody in chat commenting about Tremble in that top lane, and I think you're absolutely right. With a double-ranged lane, whether it's Nymphora silhouette, Glacius silhouette, against a Tremble, there's no reason why Tremble shouldn't be griefed out of that lane. Tremble should not have been able to get near creeps. He should not have even been able to get experience unless they were pressed up into the tower. Really, all things considered, they should have been able to kill this Tremble very early on, and I think that's a great thing to point out, and that speaks to some of the issues that Boost Kaborg esports have gone up against in this game. They needed these lanes to be a little bit more successful. You know, Silhouette is a carry hero that flourishes in that late game, but she has a lot of aggressive potential in that early game as well, especially when paired with another stunner, i.e. Glacius or Nymphora. So very unfortunate they weren't really able to capitalize on those lanes. And of course, Electrician in the bottom lane was a bit of a waste. I mean, here we see Electrician with Striders. That is really not an ideal build. It's very rare to see that, and kind of unfortunate as well. Looks like we are going to see Glacius fall in the mid lane here. Miss Air trying to give that kill to Tremble, but it was getting close to that point of, yeah, reinforcements could be on the way. I'm just going to finish it off, buddy. So Miss Air is going to be the proud recipient of another kill onto Hans Panda. Going to see a potential tower kill here for the Legion side. The tier 1 in the top lane taking a lot of damage, but the glyph going to be used a couple of ports in the exact same spot to make it a little bit more difficult to count. There's the initiation. Nymphora going to fall, and down she goes. Tower not quite out of deny range, but a brilliant defense from Impunity. Very nicely executed right there. Just very crisp, smooth play, and I love that they all port in that same spot at the tower. It's really disorienting to the opposition. Although we're watching and we can say, yeah, port 1, port 2, port 3. It's a little bit harder if you go to it and there's all channeling at the same time. How many people are actually porting in here? Is it just one, or is it their entire freaking team? And that is just another one of those little nuances showing that Impunity truly is one of these top tier teams that I keep referencing. Cat Lomain in the bottom, really going to be in trouble. Unfortunately, that volley not going to connect. Cat Lomain may actually be able to survive this. Nymphora going to port in, and Archer going to be forced back. Nymphora actually going to cancel the ultimate, but nice control there from Cat Lomain to actually survive in the mid. Oh, Hammerstorm going to survive to some lucky RNG there. Going to have about 10 hit points or so from Monkey King's combos, but will be able to survive to tell the tale, and that is a scary sign. Monkey King goes into combo down a very underfarmed Hammerstorm and still can't take him. I mean, Hammerstorm has very little in the way of tanky items, and he's only level 6. That is not a good sign about towards Monkey King's presence in this game right now, his farm relative to the opposition. You're going to see some big items get picked up as well. Forsaken Archer's now completed the Nullstone. Mr. Hammerstorm has just picked up his portal key, as has Mr. Pebbles. He is in great shape. He's also invisible right now, trying to chase somebody down. Looks like he did walk next to a ward of Rev. Did eat that Nymphora stun, but still, he's going to be invisible, and it looks like he's got his sights set on Glacius. Ooh, Glacius, you are looking like a fresh, juicy salami, and it looks like Ninja Boogie is going to go home with a full belly tonight. Down goes Hans Panda, very unfortunately. Oh, and the bitch slap going to come out. That's just cold. That is just cold, Ninja Boogie. Item pickups on the Legion side, really nothing too crazy to speak of. Silhouette now working towards the Helm of the Black Legion. It looks like he started working on that Nullstone, but he's just going to switch it up to try to get a little bit more of a survivability oriented build, given that his team's kind of getting to the point where they're on their last leg. Only one outer remaining tower, and they're still yet to take out a single tower kill for themselves. Really where that huge disparity in the GPM chart is coming from. Glancing at the XP per minute chart as well, really not too surprising, but Forsaken Archer, Tremble, and Pebbles hopping a skip ahead of everybody on the Legion side. Again, not too surprising, kind of what we would expect. Hammerstorm in a very stealthy position here, and it looks like, oh no, Miss Air going to get initiated on. Hammerstorm going to go in. He's going to drop the hammer throw, and it looks like that's going to be enough to keep Aluna alive. Pebbles going to go in. He's going to connect with Nymphora. There's the Chuck. That'll be enough to finish off Nymphora. Pebbles has a haste rune. It looks like he's hungry for Glacius. He is going to, barely juke that tree grapple. Nicely done. All the while up here at the rune, Monkey King is a lone warrior against the Aluna Hammerstorm combo. Looks like he's going to be able to survive. Pebble's going to go very aggressive here. Going to go balls to the wall. He really wants this Glacius. Glacius is going to fall. He's going to pick up a Homecoming Stone and port the hell out of there. Beautifully done by Ninja Boogie, using that haste rune perfectly, and he's going to survive. Silhouette and Electrician are like, hey, wait a second, man. Ah, shucks. That was unfortunate. He was in our base and we didn't get at him. That was very nicely done. Ninja Boogie doing the math right there with a very crafty play. You know he's got those hotkeys down. He bought that TP in like a matter of seconds. Rest of the team going to continue pressuring this mid lane here. They want to continue pressuring the last outer remaining tower. Forsaken Archer using all of those skeletons to the fullest potential. Trying to pressure, of course, Forsaken Archer. One hero that synergizes very nicely with pushing comps. Forsaken Archer just going to go straight for a damage-oriented build, though. Going to transition from Nullstone straight into Shield Breaker as we see the initiation continuing. Catlow main going to get taken out as the fight begins. Things going to continue very nice with the Hellborn side as Hammerstorm does manage to survive despite being reasonably low, and the initiation continues. Silhouette now going to be the one in big trouble. There's the Chuck. Hammerstorm in big trouble. Does manage to get the hammer throw off. He's got a couple of hit points left. He was down to about 4 hit points or so, and it looks like he's going to be able to survive. Silhouette unable to turn and finish him off. Monkey King coming in. He really wants this Hammerstorm, and it's not going to happen. The crowd control is going to be there, beautifully executed by Team Impunity. Hammerstorm going to live to tell the tale of the time he survived with 5 hit points in enemy territory. He's going to head for the base and will be able to survive. Of course, it does have that homecoming stone as well. Forsaken Archer just going to drop the ultimate to clear up the creeps here, and they really want to finish off this tier 2 tower. Smart choice from Lady Melissa there. Him, Tremble, and all of the minions are going to take out that tower. It looks like the vote to concede is going to come out. Game number 1 is going to go in favor of Team Impunity. We'll see what Boost Cabor Esports have for game number 2, as it will be coming up momentarily here. Let's take a look at the post-game stats, and yep, no surprise, 5-0 Lady Melissa on that Forsaken Archer, 2-0 Hammerstorm, and a 5-0 Pebbles. Very scary stuff indeed. Game number 1 complete. Game number 2 coming up. Of course, I'm Zyori, casting on ZyoriTV. This is the DreamHoN Summer Championships 2012. Another match here is a New Earth coming up in just a minute.